Research, summary main verified development. On Saturday, August 22, 2026, Pope Leo XIV made a pastoral visit to the Republic of San Marino and the city of Rimini, Italy, becoming only the second pope in history to attend the Rimini Meeting for friendship amongst peoples, in person, following St. John Paul II's visit exactly 44 years earlier. On August 29, 1982, why it matters. This is a historic, symbolically loaded pastoral journey happening today. It links Leo XIV directly to St. John Paul II's legacy, to the Augustinian order he belongs to. He had lunch with Augustinian nuns at a monastery in Penabili, and to a recurring theme of his pontificate, a call for peace and diplomacy amid global conflict. Key verified facts. Leo XIV traveled by helicopter to San Marino, met the country's captains regent, Alice Mina and Vladimiro Selva, addressed the Grand and General Council, prayed at the Basilica of San Marino, and greeted crowds from the Palazzo Pubblico balcony. In his San Marino address, he spoke about freedom being fulfilled through encounter and dialogue, warned against political and economic projects that claim to serve freedom while actually serving power, and called San Marino a potential laboratory of good politics. He referenced a world wounded by many conflicts, urging a renewed commitment to the gospel path in response to rising violence and fear of others. He then traveled to Rimini for the 47th meeting for friendship amongst peoples, organized by Communion and Liberation, a Catholic movement founded by Fra Luigi Giussani. Last year's edition drew roughly 800,000 attendees. This year's venue holds 20,000 with overflow screens for the rest. Italian President Sergio Mattarella sent an opening message to the meeting on Friday, warning about wars being fought while narrow oligarchies accumulate outsized power. Leo XIV's itinerary in Rimini included visiting a St. Augustine exhibition, meeting sick and disabled attendees, and celebrating an open-air mass at the port. Other scheduled Rimini speakers included Cardinal Pierbattista Pizzaballa and Italian Deputy PMs Antonio Tajani and Matteo Salvini. Sources: Euronews, Gabriele Barbati, August 22, 2026, Vatican News, the Meeting di Rimini's official site, Alatea, and Rome reports uncertainty. Full text of Leo XIV's Rimini address itself was not yet published in the sources reviewed. Coverage so far centers on the San Marino remarks and the visit's framing. This script draws only on confirmed statements and events. Final YouTube scripter helicopter lands on a mountain in the middle of Europe's third smallest country. On board is a man from Chicago who now holds the oldest office in the Western world. Below him is San Marino, population 35,000, older than the Catholic Church's current legal structures, older than most of the nations surrounding it. And waiting for him in a valley 25 kilometers away is a crowd that last year numbered 800,000 people. 44 years ago, almost to the week, a different pope made this same trip. He was Polish. He had survived an assassination attempt 3 years earlier. He came to San Marino, then to Rimini, and what he said there became part of church history. Nobody has followed that exact path since. Until today, Pope Leo XIV, the first American to hold the office, a man who spent decades as a missionary in Peru before anyone imagined he'd wear white, has just become only the second pope in history to set foot at the Rimini meeting in person. To understand why that matters, you have to understand what he said on the way there. Standing before the Grand and General Council of San Marino, in a chamber that has hosted political power since the 13th century, Leo XIV didn't talk about doctrine. He talked about freedom, and about how easily freedom gets hijacked. He described a pattern playing out across the world, political and economic projects that dress themselves in the language of liberty, while, underneath, serving something else entirely: power, control idols with better branding. He called on the tiny republic to be something rarer than a headline, a working example of good politics, a place where the pursuit of the common good isn't a slogan, but a practice. It's a strange thing to hear from a pope in a country most people couldn't find on a map. San Marino has no army to speak of, no natural resources, no global market share. What it has is 1,500 years of continuous self-governance, one of the oldest, quietest experiments in human self-rule anywhere on Earth. And Leo XIV seemed to be suggesting something pointed, that smallness isn't the same as irrelevance, that a nation of 35,000 people, if it holds on to the right principles, can say something to a world of 8 billion that the world badly needs to hear. Then came the second half of his message, the part that felt less like policy and more like a warning. He told the diocese's clergy that we are living in a world wounded by many conflicts, not one war, many. He named what he sees rising around them: violence, closed attitudes, fear of the stranger. And his answer wasn't a 5-point plan. It was simpler and harder. He said the only real response is to walk the path of the gospel with greater conviction, not less, at the exact moment when doing so feels least convenient. From the balcony of the Palazzo Pubblico, in front of a crowd that had waited for him in the sun, he softened. He told them he was truly happy to be there, to see the beauty, the history, the faith of this small, ancient people. He asked them to stay united in that same welcoming spirit they'd shown him. It was a quiet moment, but quiet moments are often where the real message lives. Then he headed for Rimini. To understand why a pope choosing to physically walk into this particular gathering is significant, you need to understand what the Rimini Meeting actually is. It began in 1980, built by a group of friends connected to a movement called Communion and Liberation, founded by a priest named Luigi Giussani. Their idea was simple, almost naive on paper: bring people of different cultures, different faiths, different politics into one place, not to win arguments, but to encounter each other. 46 years later, it has become one of the largest gatherings of its kind in Europe, a mixture of faith, culture, and politics that regularly pulls in cabinet ministers, cardinals, writers, and this year, upward of 750,000 participants following along in person and online. Every pope since the meeting's founding has sent it a written message. That's tradition. What's not tradition is showing up. Only one man has done that before Leo XIV, John Paul II. In 1982, at the height of his own papacy, when he stood in this same city and told the crowd to build what he called a civilization of love. That phrase outlived him. It became one of the defining lines of his pontificate. So when Leo XIV chose to walk through those gates himself rather than simply send a letter, he wasn't just attending an event. He was stepping into a lineage. He was placing himself physically in the same footprint as a predecessor, whose legacy still shapes how the Church understands itself. And this year's meeting arrived already carrying weight. On Friday, before the Pope even landed, Italy's President, Sergio Mattarella, sent his own message to the gathering, warning that the world is watching senseless wars unfold, while narrow, unaccountable powers accumulate influence greater than entire sovereign nations. It's rare for a head of state and a pope to be, in effect, saying the same thing to the same room within 24 hours of each other. But this year they were. Before his address, Leo XIV visited an exhibition on St. Augustine, the 5th century theologian whose order the Pope himself belongs to. It's easy to miss what that detail says about him. This isn't a man who set aside his own tradition when he put on white. He carries it with him deliberately, into rooms most popes never enter. He also made time to meet with sick and disabled members of the community before the larger public events. A detail that didn't make many headlines, but one that fits a pattern with this Pope. Quiet stops before the big stage, people before the podium. His day ended where these journeys often do, at the water, an open-air mass at Rimini's port, the Adriatic behind him, tens of thousands in front of him, closing a day that began on a mountaintop in a country of 35,000 and ended on a coastline built to hold 750,000. So what does a day like this actually tell us? Not a policy, not a headline-grabbing controversy, something slower and in some ways harder to summarize. A pope choosing deliberately to retrace the steps of a predecessor whose words still echo 40 years later, and using that inherited stage to say something distinctly his own. That freedom without dialogue collapses into something else. That a wounded world doesn't need less faith right now. It needs more conviction, applied more carefully. It would have been easier to stay in Rome and send a letter, the way nearly every pope before John Paul II did, and every pope after him did too, until today. He didn't do that. He got on a helicopter, stood in a 13th century council chamber, and then walked into a field where 750,000 people were listening for something worth carrying home. What you should remember isn't the itinerary. It's the choice underneath it, i.e. that some messages to actually land have to be delivered in person. If this kind of reporting on the papacy matters to you, subscribe and consider what stood out to you most from today's visit. The words in San Marino or the decision to walk in John Paul II's footsteps in Rimini? Leave your thoughts below.